Freedom Radio Hour. Live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Freedom Radio Hour. I'm your host, DJ Adam Cruz, and I have my fantastic co-host right here,
Eddie Nicholas. What a beautiful people. Happy New Year, New Year, New Year, New Year to you. What's up, Adam?
What's up, everybody? We're here not only giving you fantastic news, but the Freedom Radio Hour is here to be your number one source for music, business news, and trends from around the globe. We're live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM and on the web at dwildmusicradio.com. Now, there is so much news going on right now, but I need to kick it off right. We have spent a lot of our previous time talking about TIDAL. Remember, TIDAL is one of the biggest streaming services. Well, TIDAL has run into some interesting news that I thought you'd be interested to know. First things first.
Is it scandalous?
TIDAL has been sold in part.
To whom?
To Sprint.
Oh.
Okay, so let's recap. So TIDAL was purchased by Jay-Z and his associates at Roc Nation for $56 million, right? From there, they have been trying to see about their subscriber base. They need to bring that up over time because they know that the higher number of subscribers means the more money. So TIDAL has been struggling. You see, as of the beginning of 2017, Spotify has 30 million paid subscribers. Okay. Apple Music has half of that, 15 million. TIDAL, how many do you think they have?
Well, evidently they have less than
that. Yes, they have 1 million.
Oh, yes, so they're far behind.
Yeah, so they're like, in a sense, sort of bleeding already, and they're trying to deal with the wound now. So in their fight to see what they can do to save the fact that they are not growing their subscriber base, what Jay-Z did was to see about some offers. Boom, bang, boom. Sprint comes to the rescue. They have purchased 33% of TIDAL.
And TIDAL now has access to all of those subscribers that subscribe.
Yes, let's break down the good and the bad. Okay, so the good look for TIDAL is they deal with that big subscriber problem. They had a 1 million. Now that Sprint owns 33%, now they have access to their 45 million customers. Right? So you see how they deal with that subscriber base. The other big problem that TIDAL was having was, of course, because they don't have the numbers, they had a fiscal problem. That means they were losing cash at a record rate. So when the Sprint deal came in, it helped them get an infusion of cash. Okay,
quick infusion.
Yes. So the Sprint deal evidently is valued at $200 million. Okay, so now with Sprint adding that 200 million and their access, and the other thing that's good is that every year in this deal is an agreement that they will spend $75 million a year in marketing, and they're big on the exclusivity and all the trying to create unique content. So all of that helps them, and now because of this deal, TIDAL has been revalued at roughly $600 million because now they fixed some of this issue. That's the good. Now the bad side. Why are you already shaking your head?
Well, because nobody told us we should have invested in all of that.
Well, the other thing too is, let's speak about the real bad part from an artist standpoint. You remember that when TIDAL came out, it was supposed to be a cut above the rest. It wasn't supposed to be like the general Spotify, Apple Music, where they pay a fraction of a penny per stream. You see, TIDAL was trying to be altruistic. They were hoping to be that kind of service that artists would clamor to be a part of, because they were getting a higher royalty rate and they were feeling like a company was behind the artists more instead of just trying to take money from them, which is what it feels like with these other services. So a big thing that TIDAL loses is that altruism. What do I mean? Well, now they're aligned with one of the biggest corporations in the world. So no longer can you, TIDAL, claim to be that artist for the people when you've just signed with one of the biggest conglomerates in the world. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about some of the bad news about this TIDAL deal and the latest regarding the FCC and net neutrality. We're going to break it all down. Where?
91.6 FM, the heartbeat of Sudan. Boom, 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 boom.
Freedom Radio Hour. Live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM.
What up, beautiful people, and welcome back to 91.6 FM, the Heartbeat of Sudan. I'm one of your hosts, Eddie Nicholas. I'm sitting up here with my fantastic host as we move into the bustering new year of 2017, the one and only
Mr. Adam Cruz. And you're deep in the zone right now on the Freedom Radio Hour, where your number one source for music, business news, and trends from around the globe. Before we broke, we were talking about TIDAL and the latest news regarding the Sprint acquisition. In short, TIDAL has been sold to Sprint, one of the biggest corporations in the world, one of the biggest carriers in the world. They've been sold, 33% of TIDAL has been sold for $200 million. Further to this, though, there was some bad news. We broke down the good news about why this might have been a good deal for both TIDAL and Sprint. You see, Sprint, when they get down with TIDAL, now they get into the streaming game, which is a very popular venture for most phone carriers, especially. So that's kind of the good news. The bad we were talking about was that TIDAL really came forward as this sort of altruistic experiment. And now they don't have that argument to stand on. What do I mean? That idea that TIDAL was supposed to be for the artists. They were supposed to pay a higher royalty. They were different from the other streaming services. They cared about the artists and their careers. And now aligning themselves with a huge conglomerate makes them just like every other outfit.
They become corporate.
Yes. So that's a big problem. The other big problem is that now, instead of selling subscribers, now TIDAL's in the business of trying to sell cell phone carriers.
Because if you sell that cell phone, you can also get my subscription to.
So now, like, if TIDAL wasn't, here's the big bad part here. If TIDAL wasn't necessarily good at subscriber growth, whatever the approach that they took to try to get that 1 million subscriber base up to be at least comparable to Apple Music's 15 million subscribers and Spotify's 30 million, they weren't good at that. It was this infusion with the acquisition that helped that problem, right? So they never dealt with the root of why that was for TIDAL. So what is the bad news? The bad news is that TIDAL still is hemorrhaging in a certain way because it's not a sustainable solution, the problem that they had.
Well, they better sell some more telephones.
Well, now they're going to have to as part of their business model because they've aligned themselves with a telephone carrier. You see, this is a really interesting time because conglomerates all over the world are seeing the power in music services, tying it with the phone, etc. There's a lot of money there. So it makes perfect sense for Sprint to want to buy a streaming service, especially one that's flailing, like TIDAL.
And for dirt cheap.
Yes, for dirt cheap, because, when the companies are flailing, those are the opportunities to buy.
And it comes with a lineage.
Yes. But there's some problems, as you see, so I think that TIDAL's going to have a lot of issues going forward, especially when we break down the latest regarding the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. You see, here in the States, we have a new administration, and with the new administration is a change of hands.
Yes.
Right now, the FCC head has been reappointed to someone that Trump has appointed, and this person is really a foe of net neutrality. Have you ever heard of net neutrality?
Well, you're going to have to explain that.
So net neutrality is basically this simple premise that if you're an internet service provider, you treat all data equally.
It's just data.
It's just data. You allow access to that data in the same way, whether you upload or download. If all of that transmission of information is treated equally. You don't prioritize over one over the other, and you don't play favorites. To make sure that happened, the FCC a while ago instituted what's called the Open Internet Order. And it says that you have to adhere to 3 basic rules. No blocking, no throttling, and no paid prioritization. What does that mean? The first thing, one thing you can't do is if you're an ISP, an internet service provider, you can't play favorites by blocking one company's data over another because you may have a deal with them.
Oh, so it has to be free access.
Equal access, right? No blocking. No throttling means no slowing down. Because you have a deal with one company over another, you can't take the competition signal or internet transmission and slow it down in some way. That's what net neutrality is trying to avoid, right? The third thing, no paid prioritization. That means that if one company is paying for added servicing over another, you can't put them in front of the line. So the data transmission has to happen in real time, not based on some arbitrary system that you put together based on how much they pay you, right? So that's what net neutrality says. But so in the Obama years and in prior years, net neutrality was protected. Those three things were protected. So you knew that there wasn't going to be this kind of data fight, if you will. Now, with the new appointment, this person is an open foe to net neutrality. Here's what he's saying. He's saying, look, the reason why I'm against net neutrality is because it blocks innovation from these companies. See, they're trying to give you products and services and tiers in different ways depending on how much you pay. Why are we, the federal government, telling the private companies how they should conduct their business when it relates to data transmission?
Isn't he one of them billionaires?
They're always one of them billionaires. Or they're connected to
a billionaire. You know, now.
So
shame.
Yes. So of course this individual, I feel Pai is his last name. Anyhow, this individual is very keen on changing this concept of net neutrality and breaking down that open internet order that the FCC put in place. So that's a big problem. And there's a lot of questions like, does this mean that are we going to have to pay more on our internet bills because now this guy has changed the way things were neutralized?
Well, you know, a lot of time their thinking is it makes for competition.
Yeah. I mean, and you can see it in a sense.
So now you get the opportunity to go and search for the better deal.
Right.
So, you know, that is from everything that I have seen with the Trump campaign when these people are, not his campaign, from his presidency and the things that he's signing. It's breaking down evidently barriers that they see as a way of people not being able to make money.
Yes. Let's take another break. When we come back, we're going to break it down more, this idea of net neutrality, other things regarding music copyright, and let's talk more about music business when we get back. Where?
91.6 FM, the Heartbeat of Sudan.
Freedom Radio Hour.
And we're back live on Capital Radio, 91.6 FM, the Heartbeat of Sudan, and on the web at dwopmusicradio.com. You're deep in the zone right here on the Freedom Radio Hour. We're your number one source for music business news and trends from around the globe. I'm sitting here with my fantastic co-host, Mr. Eddie Nicholas.
What up,
and I'm Adam Cruz. We're talking about net neutrality, the FCC, which is the Federal Communications Commission, and what they're doing. You see, net neutrality is that idea that all data on the internet is created equal. It's treated equally. So if an internet service provider is aligned with or has been paid for by a certain company, right now that company can't place that data transmission from that company at a priority. It can't block their competition's data, and it can't slow it down, the competition's data, because you might have a deal with a certain company. But now that's all in jeopardy, because with the new administration here in the U.S., there comes new appointments and new philosophies. The new appointment to the FCC now is against any fights for net neutrality. Why? Because he argues that it prevents innovation and creativity amongst these companies that want to create more opportunity for customers to buy their stuff. So we'll see what the future holds around that. But what does it mean for you? If you're a music enthusiast, a DJ, a producer, a songwriter, why is this segment around net neutrality relevant to you? Well, it's simple. Right now in this day and age, we were just talking, Eddie and I, about the importance of getting activated. We're talking about the importance of getting politically activated. So what does that mean? If you're in the U.S., I behoove you all to look up your members of Congress and look up call scripts. If you're unable to articulate what you feel, they will help you, and you should start making calls to let your voice be heard about things like net neutrality and things with respect to the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. So that's the call to action here. Is what does this mean to you? Make sure you let your voice be heard. Start with that call list. There's one here. I don't know if you can grab it.
Here we go.
There's a call list here. It looks like this, and it's basically a list of your members of Congress, and then at the bottom there's a call script, but that one changes depending on your issue.
This is for those of us in the States,
yes,
of course.
Now, around the globe, what does that mean for you? So I would behoove you to figure out what kind of ways you can get more activated in terms of your community, in terms of the politics. Try to not get yourself in trouble, of course, but I think it would be important to let your voice be heard where it concerns you the most.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I have kids at home, so I have to be very aware of what's happening in the world, especially in this country, and I want to fight, especially if for not myself, for my children.
Mm-hmm. And I have healthcare concerns, so therefore one has to be politically active, especially as one starts to get into their senior years. You really have to be vigilant because people are trying to just displace things, and they want to put cost in front of people's lives, and we can't have that happen. People's lives are more important than the cost, and we're in a democracy, and we must make sure that that democracy rings real and true.
And how can you get yourself activated if you're a musician or an artist using a service like TIDAL or others? Well, if they're taking a stand that's against your personal belief, like TIDAL's recent acquisition, Sprint's 33% acquisition of TIDAL recently might stick with you in the wrong way. And you can get activated by looking to see if the services where you're sending your music has an opt-out. What does that mean? That means that if you at any point can opt out of transmitting the music to that service.
Especially if you feel you're not getting a great deal, because with the way everything is being set up, it's about what can I get for my top dollar.
I agree. I think right now the name of the game is get active, get involved, and get engaged. On the music tip, if you have music on a service that...
because everything affects your pocket.
Everything. If you're looking at these services, they're not paying you enough, or you don't feel like it's worthwhile, consider an opt-out. If you're in the U.S. or even around the globe and you want to figure out how to get politically motivated, look it up on the internet. I love that. There's a book, a guide, a free one called The Indivisible. It's basically a how-to guide that volunteers put together to tell you how to get politically active. So I think I would look that up as well. That's all the time we have for today. Want to thank everybody for tuning into the Freedom Radio Hour. Definitely check out EddieNicholas.com for more of his fantastic music, and DJAdamCruz.com for more of my fantastic music. Thank you so much for listening again. I'll see you next time. Have a great weekend and a great week ahead. Peace.
Peace out. 91.6 FM, the heartbeat of Sudan.
DWildMusicRadio.com.